As black artists in this industry, I think a lot of people are apprehensive to come and work with us.
Yes, where for black men is so serious.
Take, for example, Queen and Zinga, who captured slaves and turned them into warriors.
Together, build a strong foundation.
It's got to that point now where I can't not talk about it now.
We've been taught a bunch of bullshit.
I think the main issue is trauma, and a lot of the time it's not actually the individual's fault, it's trauma which has been passed on to them.
Being dark-skinned before wasn't a trend. We're here, we're not there yet.
Yeah. People automatically go to, oh, I'm not suicidal, I'm not depressed.
People jump on the bandwagon because of the colour of their skin.
People without knowledge of their history is like a tree without roots.
There you go.
It's called Crazy, and it's just to warm you guys up a little bit to my voice, so here we go. I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so special about that place. Even my emotions had an echo. Nothing but an empty space. I was out there without a care. Guess I was out of touch. And it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I think I knew a little too much. You're in control. Well, maybe we're crazy. Well, maybe we're crazy. Well, maybe we're crazy. Possibly. Maybe we're crazy. bro. Yeah. 'Cause I can't get mad at a little bit of things to chill. There's nothing belongs and I want to play. And hey, nothing gonna make me move today. I won't be going out. I may ignore your call. I'll turn off my phone 'cause I don't wanna be bothered at all. Don't be offended or upset over this. I can't explain the truth. I've been feeling it. Oh, it ain't got nothing to do with you. No, no, no. Oh, won't brush my hair, won't go nowhere 'cause that's just my good day. Won't brush my hair, won't go nowhere 'cause that's just my mood today. I've been feeling it, so lazy.
Greetings everyone and welcome to the first episode of Inkwa Talks. I am your host, Rob, also known as the Lift Kid. Today with us we have Sarah Louise.
Hey.
We have my co-host Nairobi.
Hello.
We have Sacha T.
Hi.
And we have my brother in work, Bwale. So I'm going to hand over to my co-host Nairobi, who's going to begin interviewing Sacha.
So we have Sacha with us, who just gave us an amazing performance. He performed, what were the titles called?
The first one was Cover, called Crazy. The second one was called Live. And the third one, oh Lord, Lazy.
Lazy.
Yeah.
I think Lazy was my favourite. What was you guys' favourite?
Yeah, people usually love that one.
Yeah.
I think it's just everyone's general mood.
And can relate.
Yeah,
It's relatable,
literally.
yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. So how long have you been doing music?
Properly for about 4 years, maybe 5 years. That's when I actually started taking it seriously. But
Okay.
obviously, everyone sings in their living room
Yeah.
to Beyonce or Lauryn
Yeah.
Hill, whatever. But then, like 4 or 5 years ago.
And at what point did you realise that this was something that you wanted to pursue as a career?
I think it was at the point when I stopped listening to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when people are going for something, if you really, really want it,
Mm-hmm.
you don't care about what people think. And before that, I feel like someone would say something and it would affect me to the point where I wouldn't want to go on stage or I wouldn't want to sing something. I was like, I can't really want it that bad.
Yeah.
And then one day I sang something and obviously I got good feedback and bad feedback, and it was like, I don't really care about the bad feedback. Obviously you take things on board that can help and you understand what's constructive, but at the point I stopped caring about what other people thought. I knew growing up, everyone hears you need a backup, especially when it comes to creative roles or anything that's to do with anything creative. You hear you need a backup. So my backup was always law, and I actually enjoyed it anyway. And then it got to a point in school where I was like, again, listening to people and letting people affect how I felt about music.
Would you say that anyone that is looking to start a music career, would you say that they should follow their dreams and ignore what everyone says and ignore the idea that you need to have a plan B, or would you say definitely get an education as well as trying to pursue music?
I would just say do what you want to do what feels right.
So how many instruments do you play?
Oh my god. I always get into trouble when I answer this question because I believe that I can play the drums, but my brother constantly tells me no, but I'm adding it in there anyway. So anyway, I can play the guitar. That's my weapon of choice, is the guitar. I can play the piano. I can play the drums. I'm saying it. I'm learning to play the saxophone. I have one at home.
Yeah.
I can play the violin a little bit also.
Wow,
That's
that's a
it.
lot of instruments.
Yeah, I love learning something new.
Yeah. And so is there anyone that you take inspiration from when it comes to writing your music?
Oh
or
my
just someone that
goodness.
you look up to in the music industry?
I love Lauryn Hill.
Okay.
Lauryn Hill's my Lauryn Hill's like
She's Lauryn Hill.
She's Lauryn Hill, yeah, for everyone, to be fair.
Yeah.
When you listen to something, especially like me, when I listen to a piece of music, I just think I'm listening to this for a reason. Like there's a reason I'm listening to it.
Yeah.
And I always try and take something from it. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So So I also read on your website that you are a mental health advocate for music.
Mm-hmm.
How does mental health affect your creative process?
I think for me personally, I struggle with mental health in terms of just a lot of things in the past affect me today, and I feel like everyone's past is it affects who you are. But like I've struggled with confidence and self-esteem, and just who I was before, and I will tell everyone and their mother that music saved my life completely. And whenever I'm having a bad day, if it's writing something or listening to something, there's a song to pick you up, there's a song to put you down, there's a song for everything. And I always say, especially when it comes to mental health, sometimes we're in a bad mood and we don't realise there's a certain song or a certain genre that puts us in that bad mood, and we listen to it and we're thinking, why am I upset? I'm just angry. Why am I angry? We don't know why we're angry, and you're attacking everyone. And it's the song that you listen to. It affects your mental health and your mental state. So I always say to people, just like you would with food, just be careful of your musical diet.
Do you feel like the music industry is supportive when it comes to musicians and their mental health?
It's difficult because you can to a certain extent. And I feel like there are things in place, but at the same time, especially in the industry today, there's so many other factors that come into being a musician. Like even I was talking to somebody the other day and they were saying nowadays it's not just about being a musician, it's about being an influencer as well. Like you have to be able to attract people on social media, and you have to do, whereas before it was just about music and people will find you and listen to you. Whereas now they need to be able to see what you're doing, they need to be able to see your lifestyle and your family and where you came from and all of that, this, that and the other. So I think it's a lot harder for the industry to protect someone's mental health. So it's about finding what works for you, what helps you block off. If it means coming off social media or doing whatever, then you have to.
Do you think that adds like a different pressure dynamic to the art that you practice? Like you feel you have to be this influencer online as well as letting people into your life. Some parts you particularly don't want to let them in.
100%, but at the same time I know it's really difficult because nowadays it's the influencers turned musicians, or the musicians that are also influencers that are making noise. And there are some people with some real talent who don't post their stuff on Instagram because they don't want to deal with all of that, that are not getting as much exposure as they deserve.
I don't think there is any competition, if you're honest, you know?
100%.
And if you build it from yourself and your experiences, because your experiences are the only things which you have. So a lot of people just take other people's experiences and then, you know, duplicate it, but then they fall off. You know, after a while they fall off. There's always a market for something if it's real. And then the money comes afterwards, but you know, there's no one wants to struggle, you know? Everyone wants instant gratification. But once you realize that, you know, you're not in competition with anyone, the only person you're in competition with is yourself, then you can build from that. But you don't actually know what people have been through, you know? You don't know. On social media, everyone's smiling. You know, how many pictures do you take in your, you know, like
100%.
Like, do you take pictures on the toilet? Everyone goes to the toilet, but you know there's no pictures on the toilet. Why are there no pictures of people? Like, you know.
The problem with social media, it sells you moments. It sells you that particular moment in the day, when the rest of your day, that might be 5 minutes of your day, but the other 23 hours and 55 minutes was shit. Like you watched that person's moment and thought, oh my god, their life's like.
And then you start competing with one particular moment. And why am I not?
And choose as well what I want to portray and what I don't want to portray.
A lot of the time, people are faking. Like they're stunting for the gram. They don't have an interview with this person that you think. They're just walking past the building and took a picture, and we get ourselves worked up over nothing. So, I just think people need to calm down. Me too. I got a grant for like an award, and the guy whose name it was in committed suicide. He was like a musician that committed suicide. So I was inspired by that, but then also around the time my brother's friend committed suicide, and everyone was talking about suicide and depression and mental health, and I know I've like suffered with it in the past, and I know music saved me. Like I thought about suicide, I thought about all of these things like self-harm and all of that stuff, and I was just thinking I was always the friend that was checking on everyone else. No one really checked on me. And at the same time, I don't blame them for that, because I used to pretend like I was fine. Like I don't like being seen as a victim. A lot of people just don't like that other people are drawn to me. So I remember in school feeling like I had no friends. So I went from someone who, like, I was performing in all the school plays, and like my grades were decent, so all the teachers knew who I were. My sister was older, so I knew people from different year groups, like known and doing everything. A lot of people hated that, so would constantly tell me I couldn't sing, I couldn't dance, I couldn't do anything, I was stupid and blah blah blah. People just don't like to see you winning. And then they would cuss me because of the colour of my skin. Like literally, we'd be somewhere, the lights would go off, and everyone would be like, "Oh, where's Sacha? Where's Sacha?" Like it's not funny. It's not funny. And I remember like looking in the mirror sometimes and just being like, I just don't see anything. I don't see anything special. And people would say, "Oh, but you've got," and I'm like, "Yeah, but what is that really?" And like I said, I remember being in school and going from knowing a lot of people and mixing with a lot of people and bringing everyone together to then having absolute like zero friends. And all of this just built up into the point of I can't do it anymore. I just can't keep living, and every little thing someone does is it affects me mentally, physically, emotionally. I can't do it. And music genuinely saved my life, because if I wasn't listening to certain songs and just shutting myself away and listening to music or writing how I felt down, and sometimes singing that to my mum and her hearing these painful things, then I don't know what would have happened. But yeah.
As well, being alone is a blessing, because you get time to yourself. A lot of people never have time to themselves. You know, a lot of people struggle. They need to be out. They need to be with other people because they're afraid of themselves. That's when mental health issues can kick in, and it's even worse. I mean, people in general need to look at, you know, addressing things before they actually, you know, prevention is better than the cure.
Yeah.
No, but I'm going to be selfish. I want to ask a question, because I was hoping you were going to sing a song that you put on your Instagram the other day. I think it's called Bwale.
Oh yeah, I put that up yesterday. I'm so sorry. I actually thought about it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What inspired that tune?
So obviously that's a song that's come out, and I remember watching the video and was like, this is so what's the word? It's not. I'm not gonna call it like, you know, people are cultural appropriation. It was so respectful to like our ancestry and like history, and it's just a reminder for me. I find it very difficult when people like they talk about going back to the motherland and going back to ancestry, and sometimes it seems very stolen. It doesn't seem real.
It doesn't seem authentic.
Yeah, it doesn't. Thank you. That's the one I'm looking for. It doesn't seem authentic.
I think you have to go back to Africa in your head first.
Yeah.
Because you go back there and it's not going to be what you want.
Yeah.
And then you're disappointed because you thought of it as this lovely land, people are dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not that. You go back there, you've got to go back there with a plan and ready to work. And a lot of people aren't ready to sacrifice that because of the age that we live in, where everything's instant.
Yeah.
You know, you put a picture on Instagram, you get likes instantly. You order something, you're supposed to get it the next day. Everything is instant. So when you present something that takes time to cook, time to grow, people can't handle it. And like you said, the reason why the song resonated with me is because it made me think of Marcus Garvey. Alright, Sarah. Yes, I've been following your work for some while now. I have this, and I've watched it grow like over time, and it shifted. I think it started off. It's always been colourful. Yeah. But it shifted. You started using a lot more black. Yeah. Which really brings your colour work to life. So for those of us who don't know you, tell us what it is you do and how you came to do what you do.
I'm a tattooist. I live in Nottingham, and I've been tattooing from Nottingham. I've been tattooing now for 6 years, and it's been a journey, to be honest. I always say to everybody that I've been tattooing for 6 years, but I say properly for 4 years. I'm one of 4 children. I'm of Jamaican heritage, so As far as I know, I'm probably the only female black tattooist in Nottingham. I don't know if there's any others.
Round of applause.
I don't know. I try to take a lot of my influences, and I do more or less now colorism and neo-traditional, and trying to branch is what colour. I don't know if you see.
I have, yes.
A few things I've done. So yeah, I'm trying to bring that with the colorism and neo-traditional as well. So yeah.
As artists, we get into something and a particular person or a thing will influence us, but as we grow as individuals, those influences change. Who or what has influenced you along the journey?
Yeah, it's quite similar to what Sacha was saying earlier about everything around me. I take a lot of inspiration from wildlife, plants, and a lot of my favourite artists that I follow are painters as well as tattooists. So I follow Essence Ramada, Gustavo. There's Reagan Koslicki as well, who I used to work with. Works amazing. She does a lot of traditional fine line drawings, but she puts that into her paintings as well. And I follow a lot of the old greats like Salvador Dali as well, because I really like realism. So that's one of the things that I try to take influences from life, but then things that I've seen as I'm growing up and put that within my work. So I think that's the reason why it's always shifting and changing. The style that is set on that really. Definitely.
I think how did lockdown affect you?
I think through lockdown it was definitely in the beginning. I was so on a momentum of what I wanted to create before, so I kind of used everything I applied with learning for the new techniques with watercolour and adding that in to my paintings. I think really because I'm just always still on the flow of trying to figure out what it is that I want to do and learn new techniques, it's sort of just, I don't know, it kind of comes from what I still see around me. There's never really like okay, today I'm going to definitely work on this. I've tried that, like planning in advance. It just doesn't work for me.
So you kind of shift with your mood in order to accommodate the art. I'm going to go back to social media for a little while. You put up a video that I watched.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been preing everyone, so don't put nothing up that you don't really watch. You put up a video where you spoke about your attendance at the Nottingham Black Lives Matter rally or protest, and you spoke some really true words that hit home with me, and some very good points where you spoke about people not using their privilege to open doors or educate other people, whether it be male privilege or white privilege, whatever privilege it may be, they're not using it to uplift people and open doors. But you touched on something that I think is quite prominent in our industry, because people of colour, with starting from African down to whoever, we're given so much to the world, and you touched that the tattoo industry or the art world will take what it wants from other cultures and just discard what they don't want, basically.
Exactly.
How do you see us making change to reverse this behaviour?
It's a difficult one because I see the transition of, whereas I've seen the Black Lives Matter movement from when it began sort of really take up one and affect the whole world as a whole, not just so much the UK and America. So it's sort of it's got to that point now where I can't not talk about it now, because I'm living in this world and this generation where, as we both were saying, we've got everything that we want, everything, we've got it instantaneously. We can get that information we want to. So I feel like I have to push to keep connecting with people.
But one point that you really hit was, I think it's towards the end of the video, you started talking about why people should protest. And I think this is it's a sticky point for black people, because I'm of the mindset that every mindset is needed. When you read back into the pages of history, like you said about learning about ourselves, you can take, for example, Queen Nzinga, who captured slaves and turned them into warriors and brought them. Like, do you know what I mean? So he's infiltrating the enemy's camp. Tell those who don't agree, for whatever reason, how protesting can help open doors and make changes.
I think it kind of goes back to the education prospect of knowing what's around you and understanding, because there was a sort of time at with the death of George Floyd and everybody seeing all the media coverage, not being aware and understanding that's actually out there and it's captured. And I think that particular moment actually brought people into a sense of awakening, thinking, oh, yeah, I want to stand with you. That sort of united feeling of standing with you. So I think, to be honest, I just, when I look at a protest and I've been to protests, it's how I'm taking that information and involving it with the community I'm in. If I'm not sort of going to a protest, it's signing petitions and particularly coming across local communities that support people of colour. So I would say if there's people that, for whatever reasons they don't feel comfortable, because I understand sometimes it can be a confidence issue. Some people are not as vocal and, happy to stand there amongst lots of other people, and just, mental health. People find it a bit too mentally debilitating to be there. I think if you are educating yourself with the information that's out there and what you see, and take that and read up more about it, you probably won't need to go to a protest as such, because you're sharing that information with everybody else.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying with the whole social media. That's how you do it. So I would say to my fellow black people that saying, you know what, I'm not going to really go to a protest, fine, but what do you do within your community?
Yeah. As black artists in this industry, I think a lot of people are apprehensive to come and work with us.
Yes.
Has that kind of changed a little bit? Do you feel like now more people are, okay, well, we've been taught a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
People are just people.
Yeah.
Like, not every black person's coming to rob you.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that's made a difference? 'Cause I've seen the difference here, definitely.
I have too. I think it's allowed people, and I'm talking particularly about white people, that are not aware that I'm a watercolour artist within Nottingham, and look at my work and think, I'm not going to just, support another artist, I'm going to support this particular person.
Yeah.
And I try and do my best every time I get a client in to talk about, open up the conversation about just art in general, and then it leading on to Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
So I kind of use that as an education process, so I can, they can continue to support people of colour through the whole spectrum, not just within tattooing, but as a whole. So I think it's not really changed my work, but it's sort of changed my mindset of how I'm going to use my voice to, through my work. That's why I posted the video in the first place.
Yeah. And you touched on some very good points. So I think you can articulate yourself as well. So I think it's something you should continue doing. No, I definitely do, because, right, I think we should move into our topic, which is mental health. So we've already started the ball rolling. So, I mean, where do we start? There's so many entry points into this conversation. I mean, what is the main trigger for me? Is it society? Is it the pressures of society that causes people to implode almost?
I think today it is,
yeah. Because I think there's I always kind of see it as there's two worlds: there's the spiritual world and there's the physical world, and your mind is almost like interpretator between the two. I'd like to get everyone's views on what they feel or where they feel, maybe for them, because everybody's got mental health issues, where they feel for themselves their mental health issues started. I think mine personally started very similar to yours. I had a bunch of friends. I was trying to get everyone to be friends. I was the middle child in school. I could play football and I could do a little bit of science and maths. So I was like everybody's brethren. But then you get to a certain age and it's like oil and water. Kids start separating. So the cool kids start separating off from the, you could say, dud kids, or the kids that are not considered cool. And then you start questioning yourself, like, why does this person not like me? Why does that person not like me? I remember one particular incident when I was on the bus and I was with all my brethren, and we was heading the ball around, we was playing, and then a girl came on the bus and they were like, oh, ask her out, and ask her out for Rob. And I was like, I don't want to ask her out. And my friend went up to her, and I'm not going to name him, but my friend went up to her and he asked her out. And I heard her loudly, she's like, nah, he's too dark. Yeah, so I think a lot of times men don't want to talk about these things, but we get a lot of the same stigmas and rejections that women get, but because we don't talk about them, they don't exist in open spaces.
Why do you think men do not?
I think it's just conditioning. I think it's just a general conditioning. A man is supposed to be, well, by society's rules, is supposed to be strong, the provider, You don't cry, you bottle up everything inside, and you don't go to the doctors when you're sick. You do nothing basically. You just go to work, shut the fuck up, and pay them bills. Mental health is an issue that I think a lot of black men do not talk about, because it's extra imposed on us by society, because a black man is meant to be this super strong, superhuman being. So I can't speak about mental illness, mental health in other races, but I know the situation within my race. So I would like to know what other people's views are.
I can't talk about mental health. We can't talk about mental health if we don't talk about being black. It really ties into one another.
A lot of the things which trigger mental health, everyone has mental health issues to some extent, you know. There's trauma passed down from your parents, and if you look at the situation of how the world was, I mean, it's still not great, you know. But the stuff which your parents were told to, you know, hide away, or or to deal with, you know. People get angry about stuff, you know. You're never really angry about what you're angry about, you know. It's just a build up of a lot of things, and that's how I look at mental health issues. But again, it's a wide spectrum of things when you talk about mental health. You know, it's very hard to change yourself. You know, you ask other people to change, and you can't expect people to change sometimes. You know, if we look at life like our own lives and think that they're massively important, you know, what we're doing is really important, then you fail at fixing the little problems which can help the generation to come. So that is something which I think as well with social media, you know, it's very I. So that means we're just on the same level of like not dealing with things. So our kids are gonna get the same problems because we were thinking about ourselves.
As black men, how have you felt and experienced some of the things around mental health? Have you been able to talk about it with your peers who are also black men? Or have you always felt like you've had to internalise it?
I think it's something that I always experience, but you know when you're in something, you don't know you're in it.
Yeah.
Like everybody here has worked in an establishment that's probably white owned, so you've gone in it and you have to kind of assimilate or kind of tone down who you are, because it makes you the weird one. And I remember I used to work for this company, and there was this guy there, and it always used to say he was weird, and all he used to do was eat his lunch, read his book. What's weird about that? Eat his lunch, read his book. And he was the weird one, and he was black as well. And they really, really made this guy an outcast. And I remember playing a role in making this guy an outcast, because I didn't want to be that outcast. And it's only when I came to work here and I was working here around my people that I realized, shit, work and home is supposed to be a symbiotic relationship. Because if you're at work getting traumatized, you're gonna take that shit home and you're gonna traumatize your partner. That you would, like Bwale said, you won't do it intentionally, you will do it unintentionally in different ways. As men, we don't have that circle to sit and talk. You know, you've got sister circles and female, whatever. I don't know what other terminologies there are, but we don't have that. You might have the man them, but when you meet the man them, you're talking about football, or you're talking about you're bunning weed, or you're talking about history, but you're not talking about the impact that history has made on you. And I found Rastafari, I found me rather 3 years ago, and I'm 37 now, so it's gonna take another 34 years for me to undo what's been done. And I accept that. I'm ready to take the weight, but I think a lot of people don't want to accept it because it means change, and change means work.
Social media plays a part in the acceptance of things that we like. So my brothers always come to me and he's like, so whatever they say they like, just ignore them, because it's whatever you like. Because my older brother is 31, and being dark skinned before wasn't a trend. They didn't like dark skinned boys. When we grew up, it was all about light skinned girls, light skinned boys. It was being like the lighter the better. And maybe that's because that's closest to the whiteness that they felt like they wanted to be like. But it was always, the light skinned girl's hair is curly, and your hair is nappy, and your hair is, it doesn't look nice and presentable. And then when I grew up, everyone wants dark skinned guys. And I was like, but I've always liked dark skinned guys.
The generation before us,
they don't like to talk about mental health, but it's to do with the fact that you don't really want to be the one to say there is a child in my house that is struggling with mental health. And a lot of that comes from ignorance and lack of understanding of what mental health is. And it's literally just like your body. You may not be disabled, you may not have like a proper, there is something wrong with you, but you could get a paper cut and it hurts. It's so tiny, and let me tell you, paper cuts sometimes are the worst kind of paper. Anyway, but if you don't treat that paper cut, it can get infected, and then your whole finger is in pain, and then that goes to your whole arm, and if you ignore it, sometimes it goes away, but sometimes it doesn't. And if it comes into contact with something that's contaminated, it just gets worse and worse and worse. So what people need to like understand is mental health is the same as physical health. It's just your mental. And where for black men is so serious is sometimes it's just tiny. Sometimes it's so small, and they may like project that or bring it up, and they're met with, really, you're complaining about that? Yeah, because it's affecting me.
I think as well, within our culture, there's different degrees of mental health, and I think generally within black culture, they just automatically assume that if you've got a mental health problem, you're walking around on the street naked, acting out the character, acting crazy, when in actual fact, it is PTSD, it's stemmed from trauma. And I think just having black women and black men having sometimes the opportunity to talk within the household of their mental health illness, whether it just be depression or feeling isolated, that certainly helps. And I think it's about somewhat teaching the generation above us that they to try and explain what mental health is and start and the types of degrees of it, and that will also help break down the barriers of them being able to have these communications and relationships with our black men and black women.
Most people are like, oh, my parents didn't do this, my parents didn't. But what they did, and they're as well human, they're human, and sometimes we forget that, and I think they did sacrifice a lot. They did their sacrifice, and you will definitely have to do yours. And often we're told just to go to church, or speak to God. Usually they're down with them as well, because there's something wrong with you. You must have some demons or something like that. Which again, religion's a different topic.
Which makes it,
nobody's happy all the time. If you stayed happy all the time, you'd be dead within a week. Because you burn out. It's like, you know what I mean? You're not angry all the time, you're not sad all the time, you're not happy all the time, but because people aren't taught to be content with what they want, it's this whole thing of happiness. It goes back to social media, what we're saying, like, you're sold this moment, and then people are walking around, I want to have this moment, I want to have, just constantly on this, almost like, I can't even think of
Happiness is not a destination, it's a journey. And I think people are, like you said, people are thinking of happiness as a destination. So when they get there, look, for example, if they see a post on Instagram, oh, she at this nice restaurant, she looks happy and it looks great, okay, I'm gonna go to this restaurant, I'm gonna eat. I was like, okay, I'm there, I've eaten it, and then what? So now you're not, your happiness is so short-lived all the time because you're thinking of it as a destination rather than this continued journey.
In that moment when things are really bad, you just have to remember that, things are gonna come around eventually. But what are you gonna be when they come around, Because, some people are dealt like really shitty cards in life, where they're not happy. But if you feel, I do believe that if you feel a lot of pain, you can just feel as much joy eventually. And that's the only thing which can keep you going. Even if you don't get there, the belief that you can get there at one point can keep you going. I have stuff passed on already from drug abuse from your parents. If your mother was an alcoholic when you were drinking, when she was pregnant, and all these kind of things. I don't know. It's a long road, but I think it's a generational thing, And looking beyond yourself is the only way you can find purpose in things.
A lot of people's perception of happiness, I think they see the happy figure and just think, oh, that person's happy, but they don't understand the journey of the struggle to get to that happiness. I work for the NHS, and I go into work and I put my NHS smile on and hide it all away, and people don't actually understand or realise that I'm struggling with trauma and feeling quite isolated at work. And I think again, they want you to be this happy person and just kind of suppress certain things that are going on, but in the end it ends up becoming self-damaging because, you know, you're trying to end up pleasing other people to be happy. You know, we all want to be happy, but in actual fact it's about recognising and understanding that, you know, through that happiness comes the peaks and troughs of pain.
Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming and joining us, and Sacha for blessing us with your amazing voice. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Comment below what you thought of today's first episode, and be sure to catch us at the next episode of Inkwa Talks.